My first question is talk about your casting process, Emily, because you didn't even know what Amazing Race was because it was
No,
season.
no,
So
yeah.
can you kind of take me through that?
Sure. It was, I guess, like around 2000. And Survivor won from the very first episode. I was hooked. I wanted to be on Survivor. I was in college, but I would like call home and talk to my parents after every episode. And I was like, this is not only like, do I think I should go on this show? Like, I actually think I could win. It was, 20-year-old, a little delusional, but there was something, I don't know, something inside of me was instantly interested in this adventure. And so I got my suite mate to do a video. And like, then when I went to submit it, it was like, you have to be 21 when you submit your, like, in order to apply. And I was 20. And so it was kind of like, okay, hold it. There will definitely be Survivor 3 kind of thing. And I was like, okay, kind of bummed, but still thinking, this something is, I can't let this bug go, basically. And then I went home, I guess it was maybe Christmas break. Like I guess I had gotten out of school and I'd gone home, and my mom had seen something on the early show about this new, I don't even know what it was. It wasn't called Amazing Race at the time. It was something around the world, or a race around the world, or anyway, something. And it was for teams of two. And my mom loved to travel. So she knew that both her and my dad couldn't be gone at the same time. So she was kind of like, you like Survivor. I like Survivor. This is something with CBS. Would you just want to like try for it or whatever? And I was like, sure, why not? So then like we get online, and tapes are due the next day. Like submissions are due the next day by midnight or whatever. And so we're kind of like, ah, crap, that sucks, or she didn't say that. I probably was thinking that. My mother did not like language at all, but so we kind of just go about our business. And then my dad comes, and I'm in my bedroom at my parents' house, and he comes and gets me and my mom, and he's like, well, y'all need to get some sleep. And we were like, what? He goes, because you're going to Los Angeles in the morning. We were just like, what the heck are you talking? I mean, what's going on? And so basically he had bought us tickets to, like, we were going to make a video like that night and literally hand deliver it. Like, go to the airport, take it to LA to drop it off, to get it
Insane.
there in time for the entries to be due, or the submission tapes to be received. And so then we kind of started talking through it, and then we thought it would be more fun to try to, because we tried to film something at home just kind of spontaneously, and it just wasn't really capturing kind of this, I don't know, what
Your
we wanted it
dynamic.
to. The
I think
dynamic.
that's your
Yeah,
dynamic.
it was the dynamic. And also, like, this was not like my mother. My mother was a planner. And so this whole thing being super spontaneous and her just going with it, that wasn't translating. So then my dad had the idea that we film our tape en route, like as we're traveling, film each other, and then make that our submission tape. Well, of course, we only had the camcorder that had the little small, you're probably too young. Anyway, they used to have little small tapes. So you'd have to take out of a bigger tape.
Yeah, VHSs.
Yes. And so there were like small ones that fit in big VHS tapes. So then we had to like go to Walmart. This is really late at night. Go get a big camcorder that had regular size VHS tapes in it that we could record on. But then back then they didn't have, where you can, the viewer, so you could see what you were recording. I mean, we could have been recording nothing. We had no idea. So we got the tape, got the camcorder at Walmart, got some tapes, came home, put it on the charger, went to bed, woke up the next morning. My dad drove us to Austin, and we start filming our tape like en route. And there was a show back then, it was like David Letterman, and I guess every night he would do like a top 10 list of the evening. So we did basically or riff off that, but we didn't get 10. We did the top 5 reasons that you should pick Emily and Nancy. And but we had people that were on the plane with us, like the flight attendants or our cab driver. We had them like answer some of the questions too, but then we had no way to watch it back to know that if we were recording anything, if we had like, because the tapes could only be 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
So once we got to the address that the submission tapes were due, like at that time I'd never been to LA before. And so I was thinking it was going to be at like Television City at some big like studio. And it was this nondescript office park in like Santa Monica. And we were both just like, hmm. And it was basically like a mail collection facility for CBS, I guess, like fan mail and submission tapes and stuff, like all ended up at this one location, I guess. And so there was a man named Carlos, and we were like, is this where we drop off the tapes? And he was like, you're dropping off your tape? And we were like, well, yes, because we flew here, but we didn't have like an envelope or anything because we had just come with the tape. And so he like gave us some paper, like copy paper, and we kind of wrapped it up and wrapped tape on it. And then we just wrote a note and basically said, we're Emily and Nancy. I hope there's something on this tape. We came from Texas and tried to make it on the way. And then we just kind of left it, and we, didn't hear anything for a little bit. And then we got called saying, we'd been invited to come to a thing in Dallas. And from there we went to Santa Monica for, gosh, felt like forever.
Yeah, so after going through casting, what did you expect like going into the race? And then like running it, how did you feel like running it?
Oh gosh. We had no expectations. I mean, we couldn't because it was a brand new concept. I don't even think half the production knew what they were getting into. I know the camera and sound guys didn't. By leg 3, they were all ready to quit. I mean, I think so as far as expectations, I thought we were going to need a lot more, I don't know, maybe camping stuff. We didn't pack very well. We had backpacks that you could only load from the top. So if we ever needed anything, um, like that was down in the bottom, we had to pull everything out of our pack at every turn to like get down to, this pair of socks or whatever. And so, I noticed like along the way, we kept dropping, like we kept unloading things. We just were like, I don't need this. I can't carry this. This is dumb, things like that. I kept trying to lighten my pack. But we did not pack well. And I look back and, oh, some of the things I was wearing, I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about it being, I guess I mean, I knew it was going to be on TV, but I just didn't think about how I would look. So being a 21-year-old college student and then watching it back, I was like, oh, I could have done better. And now they all wear super cute outfits and they're all matching. And I'm wearing some weird hat and I don't know, a jacket that's 3 times too big. But I knew I wanted to have room to like layer clothes because they said basically to prepare for extremes of temperatures. And I'm super cold natured. So I needed layers.
Yeah, so going into it, the first leg you go to Africa, and how cool was it going over the bridge in Victoria Falls and then like bungee jumping and showing up Paul and Amy? Even your mom showed him up and she was like, he's so scared and I'm gonna do way better than him. So how awesome was that?
Yeah, going to the falls, gosh, it's hard because it was such a spectacular place that we've seen pictures of and National Geographic specials of, and we're literally right there and we don't have a moment to stop and take it in because we were in the back for sure. We were in the back. And my mom and I were probably physically the slowest at that was still going. And so we get to I remember running across the bridge and just telling myself, like, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. Because I knew that would end up on TV. So made it kind of slippery, but made it to the other side. We got the clue out. And then I can't remember if she had it in her hand or I had it in my hand, but we ran back across with the um, ticket and our clue in our hand. And once we got back to the truck to try to like read it again, it had like disintegrated. So it was in three pieces. So we could kind of put some of it together and we saw like Batoka Gorge or whatever. And so we were asking around. And so we're like crying because our ticket or our keep saying ticket, our clue was in multiple pieces. And finally found a gentleman who could direct us where to go. And he was super helpful, which was great. Then obviously the zip line and bungee jump, or I don't know what, it's not really a bungee jump, whatever. What are people calling
Swinging
it?
thing. It was like a swinging thing where
Swinging
you're like
thing. Yes,
swing. I don't know
we'll
what
go
the
with that. The
term is.
swinging
Yeah.
drop craziness. That was really cool. I mean, it was intense, but I also I went first, or not first, but between my mother and I went first. And so I didn't want to look because I knew she was really scared. And so I didn't want to look like I was scared because I didn't want my mom to like not go and me not be up there to like push her off and make her go. Because by the time like it's her turn, I'm already down at the bottom. So, but she jumped off like a champ. I was so proud of her. Um, it was really cool to see her kind of, I've never, I mean, she won't jaywalk, this woman. Like never does anything wrong, doesn't like to speed, doesn't, and then here she is just like jumping off of things and I don't know. It was cool to see her in that light.
Yeah, so this wasn't on the original episode, but it was on the DVD. So how awful was eating that ostrich egg? Because you were actually, the way that it looked, you were in like seventh. You were in the top of the bottom of the pack after the bungee jump, and then you finished in 10th, and there was like no explanation why you
Yes.
finished in 10th.
Oh,
Apparently it was the ostrich egg. So how
it
bad
was
was
the egg.
that?
It was the egg. I don't eat eggs at all. And I had been actually really excited for an eating challenge because I was like, I can eat a bug or a chicken or like not chicken, but like a chicken leg or foot or whatever, something weird. And I was not, I don't know why an egg was never even on my radar. I haven't eaten them since I was a baby. Like they gross me out. I don't like I don't even like talking about them. And so to hear that we're going to have to eat what is, I guess, about 2 dozen regular eggs.
Yeah.
And my mom likes eggs, but the pot or the um, skillet thing we had, like didn't have much of a fire going. The skillet wasn't, or wok or whatever it was very warm. And so we broke the egg open and put it in there and then tried to cook it because my mom could have probably eaten the whole thing by herself if we had been able to cook it. But we're like, it's slow going. And then people are like just drinking it and then just going on. And we just kept getting like people kept coming and going. And finally we were like, we've got to just drink it. And so we would take turns and she took more turns than I did. But basically, like I would drink it. It was kind of chunky at that point. I'm sorry. It was so gross. I'm gonna be sick talking about it, but so gross. So it was kind of like chunky, and then so we would drink it, and then basically like I would feel it go down, and then I would immediately start vomiting. And so I had to look at production, and I'm like, does that count? Like, I don't, I don't want to like mess up here. And they said if it goes all the way down, it counts. it can come back up at that point, but you have to at least swallow it. So, I mean, every drop of egg that I swallowed immediately came back up. We were not the only ones vomiting, but I think my mom probably took at least 75% of it, which is pretty impressive. I would have been out. I would have totally, first leg, if it had been just me. I'd have been like, okay, never mind. I thought I could do this, but eggs are, I don't know why that's my thing, but it's just always been my thing. So
So going into episode two, after having that awesome party in the pit stop, that looked really fun. But how cool is the African safari where you got to like take pictures of animals and do all that stuff? Because it was actually really funny because you were like yelling at your mom to get back in the car, but it looked really fun too. So how was that
yeah.
experience?
So we had been told by production, like, do not for any reason get out of your car on this safari. Do not, like, rhinos are super, super deadly and dangerous. Like, don't get too close. Like, they had said all this stuff. And then what is she? She starts getting out. And again, this is Miss Safety, Miss Cautious, Miss Cardigan, Miss Very put together all the time. And here she is, like, turning her back to a, like, you can tell. I remember being super close to it. I feel like there was a shot in it. And I mean, we weren't, I want to say maybe 20 yards, 30 yards away from this like 900-pound rhinoceros. And my little tiny mom is like turning her back, trying to get the film to work. And so finally, like, I'm yelling at her to get back in the car because she's going to get herself killed. And then that's, that would be really bad.
That would be
And so she gives me the camera, and then I'm trying to get a good shot. By that point, it had kind of moved around like the backside of the vehicle. So then I have to get out. And so then we had the sound guys and the um cameramen are both like frustrated with us because we have now put the whole car in danger and not following the rules. So I think they were a little annoyed with us, but the safari was really, really cool. Again, we were at the back of the pack. That kind of made it hard to really enjoy a lot of it at that point because we were so worried about getting eliminated and embarrassing ourselves or our family.
Yeah, so after that, you go to Paris and you have to book a bunch of flights. So how stressful was it being in that backpack, like you were saying, and you're trying to find the Arc de Triomphe with like Lenny, and people are like tossing you down coins and you don't know what you're trying to find, but you make it out. So what was that moment like, just being so stressed?
Yes, getting to Paris was really stressful. I think at that point, everyone was really like a little fatigue was starting to set in. Obviously, we had a lot longer to go, but when you're tired and you haven't eaten, a lot of people were starting to feel sick. There was some issues with some sickness due to some things we ate in Africa that didn't affect my mother and I, but did affect a bunch of the crew and I think some of the teams and staff. So we didn't realize that, but at the time, but I think that was part of people's moods and things like that. People just weren't feeling good. So, and then you're stressed because all of this happened before really you were booking things. Like, you could sit down at a computer. Like, we didn't have that, wasn't available to us. The times were just different. We had to do everything on a phone. So we were all like sitting around trying to get on a phone to call. I mean, it was crazy. So once we finally were able to get out of Africa and get to Paris, we were excited. I felt like kind of we were in the mix a little bit. And then we get there and go to, I guess, did we go to the Eiffel Tower first? Is that where we
Yeah,
went?
you
Okay.
went to the Eiffel Tower, then you did
Can't
the
remember.
you did the roadblock, and then you went to the Arc de Triomphe for the pit stop.
Okay. So yes, there was something in the clue that made it sound like it was going to be something physical at the Eiffel Tower. I don't remember what it was, but for that reason, my mom kind of wanted me to do it. And so I did. And so I climbed up to like the second balcony or whatever, and which is not a short climb. And we were very tired, but I get up there and then I realize I'm supposed to be looking for something and I don't have any money. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go all the way back down. We're already behind. We are in a lot of trouble. So I start trying to look around to see if I can get any money from anyone. And I was like, can I have 10 francs? I think that's how much it was. And so I had asked a couple people, and then there was a gentleman that was kind of on a balcony. And so he threw some down, thankfully. And then about that time, Lenny was getting there, and they had already gone. We didn't know that they had already gone to Notre Dame and then come back. And we didn't know anything about that. I was thrilled to see him. Because when you're at the back of the pack like that, anytime you see another team is like, yay, we're not totally out of it. So I was thrilled, to see him. And then we just kind of decided, like, let's just try to work together. And, I was kind of looking through one of the telescope things or whatever. And then I thought I saw it on top of the Arc de Triomphe. And then I told him, and then he looked, and then he thought he saw it too. So then we ran down, and I mean, we didn't get there very much in front of Lenny and Karen, and then they didn't get there very much in front of
Him and Leslie.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so after that, going to episode 3, so I gotta ask, how awful was it going down that dang sewer?
You know, I mean, it was a little off-putting at first just because it's just like, oh gosh, this sewers of Paris. It sounds disgusting. But I think they probably found the most sanitized section of Parisian sewers. It really, I mean, it wasn't, I did see a rat, which is kind of unpleasant, but I was expecting to see more.
Yeah.
Um, he was kind of behind, they had like a light that was shining out, but then behind the light was pretty dark. And I saw him coming out of the shadows kind of a little ways up for me. And so that was kind of like, but it just kind of made me think of like Phantom of the Opera a little bit. I was like, oh, we're in the sewers of Paris. I mean, what a crazy. That was actually one time because we were going in order and you couldn't pass people, and I knew that people were behind us. I actually, not like that I lollygagged or anything, but I actually do remember taking a moment and being like, what the?
What
I
am I
mean,
doing?
I end up in the sewers in Paris following like a clue. Like, what is this amazing thing that I'm doing? Yeah.
So can you kind of talk about your dynamic with your mom as far as like your competitiveness? Because you seem to be like really competitive and wanting to win. And at one point later in like a bunch of legs, you said that you'll be prepared to play dirty. And your mom at one point in the car was like, I hope we all hold hands and step on the mat together. I'm like, did you not think you were in last place? Like you could have been in like a 3-team foot race.
I
Can you
think
kind of talk about that?
I think we kind of knew that there was someone behind us. We had just kind of, I don't know how we knew that. I don't know if someone on like production had slipped up and I honestly, it's been, gosh, 23 years, something like that, since we filmed season 1. So I've honestly forgot, but I feel like we were pretty confident that we weren't going to be like the front of the pack, but that there was someone behind us. Um, Dynamic with my mom. Oh man. I think I've always been fairly competitive, not necessarily successful in the things that I was gonna bit, but I enjoy kind of that element. My mom, on the other hand, just wants everyone to be friends and just have this amazing like vacation together. But I did see over time her get a little more invested in playing the game. To look back on and see, because she was only a year older when we filmed than I am now.
It's crazy.
I know. I know. So now I have my own daughter. I'm a teenager. And so it's this dynamic of now having a, you know, opinionated, competitive, outgoing daughter. I am like, oh man, I wish my mom was still around so I could tell her that I get it now. I understand some of her frustrations and I wish I could kind of apologize apologize for some things and tell her that like now I get it. Now I know why you said the things you said and thought the way you did and things like that.
Yeah, so going into episode 4, I gotta ask, how awesome was it doing the maze roadblock with the torch in Tunisia? Because it literally looked like something out of a movie. And then for once, you finally get your wish and you finish at the top of the pack. I mean,
Yes.
you technically were tied for second, pretty much. So, what was that like?
So Tunisia was honestly like might have been my favorite leg and not for, I mean, obviously doing well helps, but the people were so amazing. They were kind. And I mean, we would come to find out that a lot of, not a lot of, but some countries, women traveling alone, it's not something that's mm, looked on kindly. We never felt, and here we were, two white women from Texas in a Muslim country. And these men and boys were extremely kind and helpful. They were helping show us how to get from, point A to point B. And then they stayed with us at point B and then helped us get back to where our cars were. Um, I mean, and then getting to go to El Gem that place was spectacular. I mean, really, um, we hadn't been to Rome yet, right? We hadn't been to
Yeah,
Rome.
Rome's after.
And so, but I'd been there before and, um, obviously the Colosseum and Tunis is smaller, but it's in much better condition. So having the chance to walk around in the in the tunnels underneath it. And at one point, I kind of caught it on fire, a wall. And so I was like, I'm going to burn this place down. The torches were really heavy, and I probably was about 100 pounds. And so for me, like a 15, 20 pound torch that has fire, like it was made of metal. They were very heavy. And so I'm kind of balancing it on my hip. And at one point, I guess some of the kerosene or something got on the wall and then the wall started burning. Luckily I got it out, but it was a little, a little unnerving. But I'd gone around and I kept trying to find like the entrance to go down lower. And then at one point, Kevin and Drew, I don't know if they were already there or I was already down there and then Drew came down. I can't remember. But anyway, thankfully he did because we were kind of able to help each other get the swords out and then get back up to the top to check in.
So, after I gotta ask, where did the bond with Kevin and Drew start? Because we see in this episode, they're basically family. Nancy is like our adopted mom, and Emily is like our little sister. And obviously, they explained it from like a strategic reason. But you
Sure.
seemed like super close with them. So where did that kind of alliance slash bond start?
So it kind of started with them when we were I guess in Johannesburg at the very beginning of when we first got to Africa before we got to like the Songwe village section. There had been trying to remember who was all it was Kevin and Drew, Paul, maybe Paul and Amy, Matt and Anna, and my mom and I think we're
Yeah.
maybe on this last little flight. And we were, I can't remember if we were like drinking alcohol on the plane or what, but for whatever reason, like Kevin had drank a lot of whatever we were drinking and then had to go to the bathroom. But the flight was another like hour and 25 minutes. And this was a small plane and there was no bathroom. And so he took some bottles and just like kind of went behind the seat that my mom was sitting in. And my mom's like, oh no, I'm getting up. So we kind of like moved her up. And then Kevin proceeded to relieve himself in the airplane. And we just like, we laughed so hard and we were just like, well, let's just might as well make the best of it. And so we just, I don't know, in that moment of him just being like, I don't know, uninhibited and fun and kind of embracing the whole like ridiculousness of this adventure that we're on, it was like, well, why not make friends? Because at that point, I mean, my mom and I were pretty sure we were going to get out early. So I was like, well, I might as well have fun and like make friends with people on the way. But I am not sure how we just kind of clicked with them, but we most definitely did. We were, um, I guess maybe in Paris, we had a delay because a lot of people got sick. So I'm trying to remember if maybe we hung out with them then. Um, I don't know, but I mean, they were like our little race family, and I'm sure it was a benefit to them to have, us around, but I'd like to think that they enjoyed us as people too, as friends too. They were very, 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 very sweet to me and my mom. Amazingly awful braids that I had in Tunisia. Kevin had helped me with my hair on the boat. We took a ferry from France to Tunis, and it was it was like a 30 something hour boat ride. And I was kind of just like fiddling with my hair. And he was like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm just messing with it. And he was like, will you teach me how to braid? So um he kind of helped with some of the braids and yeah, and I left them in for, well, I should not have left them in. It was not cute. But again, I was not super conscious of how I looked. And looking back, I'm really glad that we got to experience kind of the race in that way because I would have spent a lot more time worrying about how my outfit looked or putting on makeup or does this look stupid instead of being able to like really be in the moment. So many of the teams now, I feel like they're all models and professional athletes and they all look a certain way and they're super, fit. And I don't know, they're influencers and which is, I mean, there's space for that obviously, but with season one, I really felt like it was a good mix of all of it, like regular American people.
How cool was it going into the fifth leg, finding the walkie-talkie in the Star Wars location? I'm not a
That
big movie buff, but it looked pretty cool aesthetically.
Yeah, it was really cool. I didn't recognize that it was from Star Wars until we were kind of at the place. And then I can't remember who said that it was from Star Wars. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, how cool. I guess I get it now. That was neat. The walkie-talkies, I didn't like that challenge. I felt like I couldn't get our walkie-talkie to work. So I just felt like we just looked like idiots just walking around. And I'm like, am I like, is there something wrong with mine or do I not know how to work it? So that one took a little while. And I remember being kind of frustrated, um, but then it was like, I saw other teams that were there. And so I was like, okay, we're fine. And then we got out before some of them. But, the the place itself was really, really cool. It's just in the middle of nowhere.
Were you nervous or excited about doing the camel ride where your mother had to pull the camel and you're just riding on it and you're in the middle of the desert, not even
I
knowing where
mean,
you're going?
I was excited. I think my mom was bummed because I did, I don't know. I didn't think that she would have, from the clue, I feel like we could tell that someone was going to get to ride it, but I didn't think that the person who wasn't riding was going to have to walk. And she had real short hair, and the camel kept trying to like eat her hair. I felt so bad. And she's like trucking along, and it felt like a long time, but I don't think I necessarily had to travel that far, but it did feel like a long time. And when you're walking in sand and you've just got sand in your boots, and I'm trying to carry the packs, but she's got like a jacket, a coat on, and I mean, I had fun. I don't think that that was particularly her favorite leg by any means, but we had a good time at that pit stop. Oh, because we thought we were getting lamb for dinner, and then our later on our I think it was our sound guy at the time. I don't know, someone from the production said that we were eating like donkey. And I was like, oh no. Oh gosh, that is not lamb. And it really wasn't bad, but I don't know that I would have eaten it if I would have known it was donkey. But we survived. But yeah, we did well. I mean, better than we'd been doing, I guess, on the last few legs. We were kind of felt like we were hitting our stride a little bit. In that leg particularly, we did not have a lot of help. Like everyone was kind of on their own. So I felt like we had gotten that
Top
place
boost.
kind of on our own, in that leg.
Yeah, so going into episode 6, how cool was it being in that Italian sports car, like speeding around where your mom's like in the little smart car driving? So how cool
Smart.
was that experience?
It was really, really neat. I don't know that I appreciated the like expense of the car or the engineering that went into the car, but since then, I've actually gotten really into Formula One, and so I'm super interested in cars. And um, so now looking back and knowing that I was in a really crazy, cool, expensive car, and it was fun, obviously, to ride in it. But my mom really wanted to do back then, I don't think they made us.
They didn't.
Okay. I was like, did they make a switch? I mean, if it were up to me, I would have done all of them. But I was finally like, well, she needs after the camel, she was like, I'm doing whatever it is. And then she has to drive this like little felt like she kind of got a raw end of the deal on that one, but she had fun. And she found, I guess, got directions and did a pretty good job getting where we needed to be. I feel like we had been told, like the clue said to take a train from point A to point B, and some teams had decided to get off in the middle. And then they ended up getting there faster because they had done this. And we were all like, well, and I think they ended up getting like an hour penalty or something. But it didn't change their placement. They
Yeah.
were so far ahead of us at that time. And we were still kind of in a bad mood after the whole Tunis airport thing. I think my mom had not checked out at that time, but I think she just was having a really hard time with like kind of gameplay and I mean, I don't know. She was just kind of, she didn't want to get in the play like that. She liked it better when we were all holding hands. And I'm like, Mom, that's not how this is going to go. But
Yeah, so I gotta ask, episode 7, going into India, how nervous were you actually going to India and how difficult was it navigating?
that was really hard. I don't think we knew what to expect going in. We didn't know expect how hard it was going to be. And the distinct difference of coming from, Italy and then stepping foot into just like India, which is colorful and full like sensory overload in all the ways, good and bad. Um, and we were the only team at that was still in the race that didn't have a man on our team. There were no all-girl teams left. So when other teams could go up and get tickets on a train for in 5 minutes, it took us an hour and a half. And then we still had to basically get a man to come stand with us. So they thought that he was with us because they kept saying, "Where are your men? Where are your men? Where are your men?" And we were like, "We don't have them. We just want tickets." And um, it was so frustrating because we were so tired and so um, dirty and hungry. And I think India brought out the worst in me, obviously. It's not an episode I was looking forward to talking about. Um, so it was hard, and it was really hard to watch back because I was pretty embarrassed about the way that I had acted. There's really, I mean, I could say a lot of things that I feel like maybe led me to that point, but there's really no
Yeah.
excuse to talk like that. And so I'm pretty, that's, yeah, it's been hard, hard to kind of move beyond even this long after.
Yeah, so what's that feeling like when the greeter was like your team number five? Because your mom was like, I cried the whole way here, and you were completely shocked. I mean, she came out
Yeah.
last at the roadblock, and
Yes.
you looked like
Way last.
yeah,
Like people had been gone for, I mean, at least an hour. I mean, she had been, and at one point I remember like going through all these stages of emotions when I'm watching every other team leave. Um, from like frustration to then concern. And I remember making eye contact with the guy that was doing our like mic, like our boom kind of that was carrying around and helping with all of our sound. And he had this look in his face, like he was anxious and concerned. There were a lot of people around us who were making a lot of noise. I didn't know where my mother was. We were like, there were no other, I mean, a lot of production had moved on to the next spot. So there weren't a lot of people still. It's not like there was a big production group waiting with me. It was basically like my cameraman and sound guy. And then I think, no, maybe it wasn't mine. I can't remember. Someone went with my mom. I guess it would have had to have been our regular sound people. And then it was like production sound people and camera crew that stayed kind of where I was and where the rest of the contestants had been waiting for the rickshaws to come back. And I just saw it thinning out from our people and felt like the crowd was just kind of, I mean, obviously they were curious as to, what's going on. What are these, all the shouting and the Americans and the cameras. I'm sure they were super curious. And then you're also feeling really guilty about being there trying to win $1 million when these people, a lot of them don't have anything. And so it was hard. It was a culture shock. And I was the youngest one on the show, 21 at the time. And I think back like how young that really is now that, 20 some odd years later, my perspectives changed a lot. So I think obviously as an adult, I would handle it a lot better. I mean, technically, I guess you're an adult at 21, but I was not. And so just waiting for my mom to get back was really stressful. And then we had to drive around for a while to try to find the hotel or the hilltop in Agra. So then, I mean, we just knew we were out. There was no way anyone else had messed up worse than us. And so like, we just kind of, I mean, dragged our stuff and ourselves up the hilltop. And so we were just ready for Bill to say, Nancy and Emily, I'm sorry to tell you, you finished last. And he said, you're team number 5. And it took a second. And I was like, team number 5. And then I think I just started screaming. Like I was
Yeah.
so shocked and so excited. And then my mom was just like, what? Because she had cried. I had obviously cried. She had gotten upset with me for some of the things that I'd said, which rightfully so. And then I was just, it was a very, very, very stressful day. And then by the end of it, we were just so shocked to still be in it. It was surprising, but yeah,
So,
exciting, but surprising.
so going into episode 8, I gotta ask, how much fun was it riding the elephant? Because your mom kept saying, like, I want to ride this elephant. The one thing I wanted to do is ride the elephant. So how much fun did you really have? Because it looked
It
like
was fun.
the
It was
entire.
fun. Yeah, that had been one of the things that she had said, kind of from the beginning. She's like, if we get a chance, like, I want to ride an elephant. And so when it came up on a ticket or a clue, I knew that there was no other one. There was no other option for us. Like we were for sure going to ride the elephant. And at that point, like we had gone so much farther than we ever thought we were. At some point, I think we just were trying to have fun. We still didn't think that we could win yet, but we were like, well, today's gonna be our last day. That's kind of how we felt for like last week. We're like, oh, today's it. And then we just somehow kept going. But the elephant was really, really cool. It was a beautiful ride. I mean, it was slow, very slow moving on this elephant, but it was good. It was good.
So I gotta ask, how nervous were you doing that rat roadblock? Because it looked like real, it didn't look like scary, but it just was like such an interesting task. Like I don't think we've seen anything like it since. So what was that like, especially because you're neck and neck with Joe and Bill?
Yes. So we wait, yeah, I guess they were. I'm like, who was there? It's hard to remember who all was there. We got there, I guess in the morning time, midday. So, we had heard that it's like they're crawling on your feet and, I think it is worse in the evening time. There were definitely lots and lots of rats. Like there were lots of them. I didn't have them like attacking me or anything, but a couple got kind of on my shoes and there were like these bowls of, I think there was like coconut milk or something that would attract them. And so they had the clue box was really close to one of those bowls. And so, but my mom and I had really talked about how kind of my behavior the day before, whatever. And I was really trying to be more kind and a better kind of human. So I was really trying to like be respectful of this holy place. And watching the people who have traveled a really long way to like be in this holy temple and celebrate um their faith in this way. I mean, it's pretty poignant when you think about it. You try to um it's not my faith, so it's hard to understand that way, but you can see that it's extremely important and it's a place to be reverent. So I did try to be, um, I was like not running in there and try not to, act scared or startled by the rats and just try to just get in and get out. And it didn't take very long. So, but there's zero chance that my mother could have done that one. She would have said, we quit, we're done, out. There's no way.
Yeah, so after that, it's a non-limb. So you're going into episode 9. So you and Joe and Bill are the only teams that have fast forward because back in the day you had a bunch of fast forwards, except now they only have like one or two. So
Yeah.
can you talk about the night before the fast forward? Because it was kind of like a role reversal because you weren't really confident because you were like, they never lose at anything. And your
No.
mom was like, I think we've got this. We're gonna win. She seemed like really enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
So can you talk about like your mindset and maybe did you ever consider like just doing the detour because you were equalized at that point with everybody? Like you were
Mhm.
completely caught up.
We did, but we thought if it came down to a foot race, that there would be no way that we could compete with Frank and Margarita and Robin Brennan and even Kevin and Drew. There was just we wouldn't be able to keep up if it was anything physical. If it took, strength of any kind, like they all three teams had men or were all men. And so we thought we had a better shot at this kind of task in because we figured that the task was inside like this temple facility, that it wasn't probably going to be something super physical, maybe a little more mental, or I don't know. I just didn't see them making us do something that would be just super disruptive. And so we thought we maybe had a better shot at going head to head with Joe and Bill in that moment, given how tired we were, and how physical the other teams were.
So how was it frustrating that it was kind of like a crapshoot where like you're basically putting points in an urn, or were you like excited about not
We were
excited?
excited because we felt like it was truly like anybody's game. We
Yeah.
didn't feel like it was um totally skewed in one way. Like it was more of a luck thing, which they just were very lucky. A lot, but they were also very good. Joe and Bill, for all their faults, are very, very smart.
After losing the fast forward, your mom kind of seemed like she was giving up. So then you have to find these vans. Why didn't you just try to like finish it? Because you never know what could happen. And I mean, long story short, like Joe and Bill actually end up finishing last. And I
Yeah.
mean, you would still add your fast forward going into the next leg. I mean, I don't know if you would have won, but you probably would have got third.
Well, actually, um, well, I'll get to that point in a minute, but can I tell you how it could have worked out? But at that point, we had lost the fast forward. All the other teams had gone. We just assumed that because every other team that had gotten a fast forward had finished well before everyone else. And we were like, and now they've got a 2 hour jump on us on this other thing. And so we walked around, I want to say for over 2 hours looking for the marked car. We are carrying bags. It is so hot. Anyway, we were just so defeated, and I just wanted to like my mom just wanted to be done. And after walking around for that long, I finally, in my mind, I don't know that I knew that we were quitting.
I mean, the penalties now are only like an hour or 2 hours, so you probably didn't even know that it was going to be a 20
No, I
or
thought, I mean, the worst penalty that anyone had got was an hour. And that was Frank and Margarita and Joe and Bill in Italy. And so in my mind, uh, we had we had walked and walked and walked and tried to find this marked car, could not find it. And so um I thought that we could just take a cab and go to the next stop, and then, I didn't think that it would matter, but because I figured we were out anyway. But even if by some chance someone had messed up, I thought, well, maybe we'd get a penalty, and then when we got there and realized that Joe and Bill hadn't shown up yet, I was like, okay, well, let's watch the clock, because the worst anybody's got is an hour. And I mean, their clue had said take a train from point A to point B, and they didn't. take a train from point A to point B. They took a train from A to A and a half and then got off. And ours said to take a marked car from point A to point B. And we didn't take a marked car, we took a cab. So I didn't think that it was that egregious that it would be this death penalty that no one else has ever gotten in the history of Amazing Races. We're the only ones. And so when we got there and it was a couple, I don't even know, maybe a couple hours before Joe and Bill got there. And so we were watching the clock and I was like, we might still be in this. And then when they had us come in with, oh, and I had been stung by a scorpion in the car. We had this box of food, so we ended up having to like stop and get medical attention. So it had just been a really long day. So we get there, and then Joe and Bill aren't there. We check in fourth, but really can't check in. Phil says he can't check us in yet. So, you know, we didn't know what that means. Again, this was the first time this show had ever been filmed. So we just went and kind of tried to like lay down in the temple and wait, I guess. And then they came and my mom had fallen asleep, but I was still awake. And they came and woke us up and brought us over when Joe and Bill were getting there. And then Phil set us down and lowered the boom.
Yeah, so how frustrating was that? Because like, I mean, you obviously you still had a fast forward. You're the only team that had a fast forward. You could have used it in the next leg or in the final, so you wouldn't have even had to go to
Yeah,
like Alaska. You could have won. So does that, even though you had a great experience and I'm sure, I mean, it's a lifelong memory with your mom, does that kind of haunt you a bit? Or
absolutely. We were in, so we got eliminated and then we're taken to a hotel in Thailand where a lot of the production was staying. And the next morning, um, some of like the showrunners, or like head production people were having breakfast and my mom and I came down and they asked, they told us to come like join them. And so we did. And um, I know that they were like trying to probably make us like feel like better about it or just whatever. But one of them said, if y'all had just done the detour and come in fourth, y'all, the way that the flights were going to be going for the next few legs, if we would have taken the fast forward on the following leg when there was no competition, we would have been in New York a day before anyone else could have possibly been there.
oh my God.
So that was our $1 million cab ride instead of finding the marked car. And we just sat there and I just remember my mom just started sobbing. And then the guy's like, feels horrible because he realizes he probably shouldn't have said that. But I think he was trying to like, I don't know what the intention there was, honestly. Come to think of it. But I mean, she's just sobbing. He doesn't know what to do. And so he just kind of stands there and then starts like patting her on the back. And I remember just like cringing, just being like, oh my gosh, I have a headache. This is horrible. I can't believe that we did that. And so now, and she's feeling so much regret for kind of encouraging me to take the cab and not keep looking for the car. I don't know how much longer I could have kept looking for that car, but I probably could have kept
Did
going
you
for a
ever
little.
consider like switching? Like, because you could find the car, you could find like a bus. Did you ever be like, okay, the bus is easier to find. Maybe we
You
can
know,
thing?
I wish I could say we did consider it. I don't know. I think we just assumed that I don't know. It had been a like at that point we had already gone so far into it that I felt like if we went back and had to because back then I don't know if they still make you like redeclare, but you were supposed to go back to the place you had been before and like redeclare that you're doing the other detour. And I don't know why it didn't I don't think there was any point, honestly, that we were like, oh, let's go back and take the bus. Which is beyond frustrating, even this far removed from being a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you would have broken the 17 season curse of an all-girl team not winning. You would have done
Oh,
it
in the
season one.
first
Yeah.
of the very first season. I know. And a team that no one thought was going to get out of Africa. Like, if we're being honest, like I think everyone assumed
Yeah.
that we would not make it very far. And I mean, some of it was luck, some of it was help from friends, some of it was due to our own. But I think part of, everybody has their strategy, and part of our what we worked in our favor was my mom being nice to everyone and me trying to be nice. Um, I enjoyed making friends, in that, like, having people want us around and want to keep us around. That's a strategy as strong as anyone else's, I think.
Yeah, so I gotta ask, 'cause I forgot to ask this, how nervous were you getting that clue with like the tigers prowling next to you, or were they
Oh,
actually really
that was
prowling
fun.
next to
That was
you?
really, it was fun. I think at that point, no, I hadn't been, I was like, had I been stung yet? I was in a really bad mood after that. No, at that point we were just resigned to being out. So I don't think, I mean, I was a little nervous, but I kind of, by that point in the race, I knew that they really weren't going to put us in a situation where I was going to get mauled by a tiger. Like, I felt pretty safe, but they were beautiful creatures, and just it was really cool to be able to do it. I think my mom, I probably should have let my mom do that one too, though. She didn't get to do as much as I did. But I mean, that's kind of typical mom, right? I keep telling my daughter that maybe in a couple years, when she's old enough, maybe her and I can apply together, and then I can let her, we can try to do this all over again.
So I gotta ask, what do you take away from the race? Because obviously, unfortunately, your mom passed away, and I'm so sorry to hear about that. But what do you take away from it? Because it's really like a lifelong memory that you can always like rewatch.
Yeah.
And like, what, I mean, like, what was the whole experience? Like, what did it mean to you?
I really probably can't put into adequate words how, I don't want to cry. Sorry. How thankful I am for the experience and the opportunity to do it with my mom. And I think that it was meant to be when it happened the way it happened. My mom passed away when my oldest was 8 months old. So neither of my children ever really, like, have zero memories of my mother. My son wasn't even born until my mother had already been gone. And so after she passed away, and I hadn't watched our season really much before that, but after she passed away, I couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch it. I didn't even really want to watch new seasons of the race. It just made me sad. And every time Phil would, do his speech at the beginning, I'd just start sobbing, and my husband would have to hold my hand, and it was this big thing. And um, but this past spring, um, my kid, we kind of started watching some of the seasons as families, and I don't think my children really knew that I had ever been on it. And so we got to tell them this past spring that was on it, and we actually had videos that we could watch of me and their grandmother. And so having we would do not we didn't like binge watch it, but we would do like couple nights a week, and we'd make a pallet in the kind of the TV room and have dinner in there, and we'd watch an episode. And is the first time probably in 15 years that I'd seen the episode. So seeing my mom healthy, hearing her voice, I hadn't heard her voice in a really long time, and I wasn't prepared for how that would make me feel. But she was sounded so healthy and happy, and so just um embracing of everyone and everything, and just was really proud of her. And I was excited to be able to have that to show my kids because they don't, like I said, they don't know her and they won't ever know her. And so for them to see her in a healthy, like athletic, I mean, neither of us are athletes at
Yeah.
all, but to see her doing running and jumping off cliffs and pulling camels through the desert and driving little tiny smart cars around and um just doing all that stuff. I'm so beyond thankful to have had that opportunity with her and to have those videos to share with my kids. And to like have that experience is really priceless. And I'm so beyond grateful and thankful that was a part of our life.
Were you ever asked back for All Stars? Because I know Joe and Bill went back and Kevin and Drew went back. So were you ever asked or even considered? Because I know Frank told me that he and Margaret, his partner, they considered going, but they were exes, so they didn't want to go. So were you ever asked or no?
We were asked for the first All Stars. And we were super excited about it. And they had sent us paperwork. We had had lots of phone calls. I had had to give paperwork to my boss at work. I'd had to we had, I mean, started the process of like getting shots and stuff. And then I can't remember what season it was that ended right before All Stars started
Season
filming.
10. So it was
Okay.
season 10.
And I'm gonna botch the names. Was there Candace in that
Dustin
group?
and Candace. Yeah.
Two girls, right?
Yeah, they were beauty queens, but they were nothing
Yes.
like you. So
Yes, but didn't they go on All Stars?
yes, they won an All
Okay.
Stars.
Yes. So we got called from casting. Like again, I had talked to my work. We had, I mean, planned to be gone. I mean, they had my boss had signed like the non-disclosure or whatever forms that you have to sign that saying you're not going to talk about it. No one's going to know where you're at. And then basically like casting called and said that this other all-girl team that had just finished the race had been very popular. And so we were getting bumped to an alternate spot and they were coming in and they said that they would let us know if someone got sick or couldn't go for whatever reason, but we never got a call saying that we were back in and we were devastated. Because I really wanted a shot to do it again.
I
But
feel like you actually could have been really well because I mean you've been through it once before. I mean, obviously it was a huge adjustment period. The race had changed at that point, but I feel like you could have done like really well. You obviously had Kevin and Drew in your back pocket, like they would have helped you out. Like
and
who
I
knows
even
how it
think
would
we
have
probably
fared.
could have even worked with Joe and Bill.
Yeah.
And um and at that point, like I had met Amber um through just different, I mean, you kind of get in that circuit and you're in it for a while and you meet all the different people. So I think I might have met Rob, but Amber and I had hung out in Las Vegas and I thought I was like, oh, we could definitely have teams that we could already know that we could work with. And especially like given that my mom, it wasn't that much longer before my mom got sick, that I was always really, really sad that we hadn't had kind of one last kind of chance to do it again. And the race had changed, the world had changed. We had filmed pre 9/11, so travel had changed so significantly. And I don't know. I'll always be thankful that we got to do it first, just because we didn't have the preconceived notions of how it was supposed to go, or I don't even think production knew what they were getting into. So we are all just kind of figuring it out together, and it's a pretty cool. I love that it's still going. It's a great show, and I'm really proud to have been a part of it.